Thanks.
All right, thank you. So yeah, this is Intro to Creative Partnerships. I'm Chris, this is Pete, and we have some more info about ourselves coming up, so we'll just get into it. We are a creative team. But what is a creative team?
So a creative team is, well, there's a lot of people at an ad agency, people doing all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, the people coming up with the idea, it boils down to two people. So anything you see out in the world, it was the idea of a pair of people. And just excuse us, these aren't recent photos.
Yeah, so it's always the art director and copywriter. So how did we become a team? There's several ways to be paired together. Some people choose it, some people don't, but basically we both went to different schools and we both applied to the same ad agency that paired us up together. So Pete went to Humber for copywriting, great program there. And he went to this ad agency called LG2. And then the creative directors there also found me at OCAD and thought that we'd be a great fit for each other for some reason. So we were brought to LG2 and we blew the place up and have been doing so ever since.
Yeah, we're in what's called an arranged marriage. That's Chris on the left. And what that means is the creative directors at our first job, they thought that we have complementary skills. So stuff Chris is good at, maybe I'm not so good at, but I'm better at the stuff that he's not. So that's what can happen sometimes in the industry is you'll be paired together with like a perfect stranger.
Yeah. And we couldn't really be any different, especially on paper. If in our Venn diagram of our lives, like, I got into the industry relatively young, just out of school at like 21, now 26. But Pete was a little, a little less young than that.
Moving along.
Yeah. Pete loves sports. Personally, I'm gay, so couldn't be any different. Pete loves McDonald's, and I just kind of think that's kind of gross. So, but what we do have in common, this small sliver of overlap that we have, is our advertising taste, what we think is good ads, and that we both love Mariah Carey. So, the advertising taste here is what's super important because that just says that we both think the same things are funny in ads, that we both want to see the same things, and we both judge ads the same way. So if we see a good ad, we both agree that it's probably a good ad.
Yeah, and what's also good about being like a lot different than your partner is your interests just cover more ground. So for example, if we were doing, if we had to do an idea for the NFL, like, I might have more interest in that and more to offer. And if we were doing something for Real Housewives of New York, Chris might have some knowledge there. So you just cover more ground together when you're different.
Yeah. So day to day, what do we even do? I just want to kind of take you through what this process looks like in advertising.
So you'll have clients. Maybe the client is a cigarette company, and maybe that client's cigarettes are called Alabama Lights, and they will bring you a problem. In this case, they will say, we need more teens to smoke. Fewer teens are smoking. That's not good. How do we get more cigarettes in the hands of teens? So what you're going to do together, Chris and I are, if it's nice, we'll go outside. You can go to the office. The great thing about this industry and being in a creative team is your bosses don't really care how you come up with it. They just want you to come up with the ideas. So you can do that however you want. We've even had bosses before that have been like, go to a movie for inspiration, but you'll be together and you'll be spending a lot of time together. So an example brainstorm would be teens love sex. People smoke after good sex. And then an example idea would be, what if people had sex after a good smoke? So Chris will talk about how that might come together in an example ad.
Yeah, so our solution might be we talk about it for a while and then we come away, and then I'm responsible for how this ad is going to look as the art director. So, I make sure that we're hiring the best photographer to get exactly what we want and the best model. And then we make sure that we capture that, look of ecstasy in the model's face as she's smoking this cigarette to make sure we're really selling these cigarettes to these teens. We put our logo on it, and then Pete comes up with the copy to really sell it and bring it home.
So good, you'll want to have sex after. So what's important here is that you guys will always be coming up with the idea together first, and then you sort of split apart and do your own parts and bring them together for the ad.
Yeah. So now we'll take you through just a couple examples of our work and show how these things work separately, work together. Pete will take you through the first one.
Yeah, so this ad probably means nothing to you. No Name, if you don't know, is a generic store brand, and what they do is they basically copy the intellectual property of other brands. So instead of an Oreo, they'll have like a cream sandwich cookie. And what our idea was, what if we did the same thing No Name does to products, but do it with our ads? So don't know if any of you guys have been able to figure this out, but Have Dairy Beverage is actually mocking a famous campaign from the 90s, Got Milk. So you can see it's saying the same thing, but just like with Oreo and cream sandwich cookie, it's sort of the No Name version. Here's another one. You guys can try and figure out Loosen Your Grip on My Toaster Waffle. And that, of course, is Lego My Eggo. And then finally, take a short amount of time off, take a wafer chocolate bar. And that is Have a Break, Have a Kit Kat. So the reason we picked this example is because it may look like, the ones on the left, the yellow ones, that's just writing. What does the art director do here? Really, it's only words just on a yellow background. But as we showed with the cigarette example, you come up with it together, regardless of how it looks in the end or how it's composed. You come up with it together. And next example will show the opposite.
Yeah, and I really had to make sure that that was the exact right yellow, So this one, like Pete said, is kind of the opposite. So it's, the Heinz ketchup logo flipped upside down and blurred. Pretty straightforward, hopefully. It's just, what you do with the product. But again, there's no copywriting on here. So it looks like Pete didn't contribute at all, but I will vouch for him and say that we did come up with this together. I think literally Pete was like, okay, what if the idea is like we have the Heinz bottle, but it's upside down? And I was like, okay, yeah, but what if we shake it too? Literally like those two ideas coming together to create this. So that's it. So now we'll take you through one more idea that's sort of like the synthesis of these two things together. So it's, it's heavy in art direction, but it's also heavy in copywriting. And it's not one or the other. So this is a campaign for Danone yogurt. This was this new yogurt they were launching like a year or two ago. And the client was so excited about it. They were like, this yogurt, it has 100% natural source ingredients and no added sugar. No one's ever done this in yogurt before. It's revolutionary. It's amazing. And we were talking to ourselves and brainstorming, and we were kind of like, okay, yeah, this is like a good product, I guess, but it's yogurt. We're talking about yogurt here. Like,
it's still yogurt. It's still just yogurt.
At the end of the day, it's yogurt. So, it's revolutionary for yogurt. And that's, the campaign idea we came up with, and the client bought it. They liked it. So hopefully you can see these videos play, but the art direction idea here is to sort of mimic what they do in like an iPhone launch video. It's sort of like that, cutting edge, like state of the art technology type thing with these slow motion fruits. But then we're pairing that with the witty headlines that Pete has written.
Okay, so taking the sort of self-deprecating tone of it's revolutionary for yogurt, we'll just focus on the two in the middle as they're sort of the most instructive. But the yogurt you've been dreaming of in your boring yogurt dreams, or the yogurt of the future and also the present. So if you look at the way these lines are composed, the top part, the yogurt you've been dreaming of, or the yogurt of the future, those seem revolutionary. But then if you read this, the part under the subhead, in your boring yogurt dreams, or and also the present, it brings it back down to earth, and it brings us that self-deprecating tone of the idea. It's revolutionary for yogurt. So you can just kind of see what Chris is responsible for here, what I'm responsible for, what we do together, and then how it comes out on the other side.
This is also a bit of a milestone for us because I think it was our first ad campaign that was in Dundas Square, which, you know, as you go into school, this is where you kind of want to put all your mock-ups when you're pretending that you're going to have this big campaign. So the fact that we actually had our campaign there was kind of cool. This says the wheel, light bulbs, the moon landing, smartphones, this yogurt, all things
Again,
that are in the same category.
Just poking fun at how all of those other things, the wheel, light bulbs, moon landing, and smartphones are revolutionary, and then there's this yogurt. I think that's it, but the main thing we just want to get across is you're going to be teamed up. You're going to be spending a lot of time together. You are going to have different skills, but you really do everything together. In terms of the idea, no one owns it. It's not, sometimes Chris has ideas or sometimes you do. You might get the ball rolling, but you're going to brainstorm together, and then one of you is going to art direct it and one of you is going to write it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's basically it. Please ask us questions. We'll probably have reasonable answers for them.
Hopefully you do. Thanks, guys. We do have one question coming up. Did you know when you wanted to be in the, or when did you know when you wanted to be in the ad business?
Chris, you go first.
Yeah, personally, I didn't know. I didn't even know that the ad industry was really a thing. I just kind of applied to a program at OCAD called advertising, which I thought was basically just graphic design, but like a little bit more interesting, the description sounded like. So anyway, I just applied to that, and you know, 8 years later or something, I have a full career in this business that I didn't even know existed, which has worked out pretty well. But Pete has a pretty different trajectory, I think.
Yeah, I think I was interested in it maybe at the same age Chris was, and then basically didn't do anything for years and years, like, you know, just every job under the sun, but I never really liked any of them. And I think for, you know, I mean, most of you guys are going to be a little bit younger, but a lot of people get into advertising later. It's a classic sort of second career. And one thing I've noticed that's an advantage about that is like life experience is great. Like when we were talking about the Venn diagram and all the stuff Chris knows and all the stuff I know, the more different things you've done or people you've met or places you've been, all of that really helps you in advertising because you're going to have to adapt to different situations. You're going to have to be sort of a cultural chameleon on a day-to-day basis.
Very good. Both great answers. I have one question here. How are your parents? Were they supportive when you said you wanted to go into the industry? I guess more for Chris, just because you started much younger.
Yeah, I think it was especially weird because I had applied to like all nursing programs. I was being really responsible. I was like, you know, getting good grades in science. So I thought that like, I don't know, like I have the side manner for that. Like, I don't know, it was probably not a good idea, but I got into all these nursing programs and I thought I wanted to do that. And then I also applied to OCAD kind of on a whim. And when I got into that, I was kind of like, oh, I think that that's really the thing I want to do. And they were a little like hesitant at first, especially since, it seemed like I was giving up like a surefire job because nurses were so in demand. But I think when I graduated, I did well in school, and then I, got a job. My parents are very proud of me now. So that's good.
Good.
I like how bold the question was to begin with, the assumption that I have parents. No, they're fine. I think they're happy I'm doing something where I get to sort of be creative. Creativity is in general very difficult to monetize. If you think of all your friends, any of your friends that are in a band or paint or even like to write, those things can be very difficult to sort of put food on the table with. And I think advertising is a good bridge between more conventional business and the artsy side of people. So if you do have that sort of creative bug in you, advertising is a great way to make a living from it. And I think my parents were happy to see that.
Good. And I know it's not a well-known industry either, that you can actually get paid for writing and creating ads. Do you have any tips for working from home as a team? I'm sure, because you guys work so closely together prior to the pandemic. How has that changed?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we used to spend like all our time together. I spend more time with Pete than my partner, and same with him. So, we would usually go to a room, or like Pete said, go outside or something just to brainstorm. But now we just spend like hours on the phone with each other every day. So that's been a bit of an adjustment, but somehow doable. Do you have anything to add, Pete?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, every team is different. Some are just some are more detached than others. You're going to spend a lot of time with them anyway, but I think Chris and I have, I don't know, it's just like we have kind of a mutual understanding. So I think when we have our individual parts to do, we just can kind of do them on our own. And then when we need to talk about something new, a new brief or a new problem, yeah, basically just pacing around in my apartment on my phone is how it looks in a pandemic.
Yeah, it's been a change for everyone. How important are awards in the industry?
I mean, I think early on they can be like, yeah, they can be important because I think it's just a good way to get your name out there more than anything. You show up in these annuals, these books, and people see your name, or you're on lists and stuff like that. It's also just it's a nice motivation for you to just be judged up against other stuff. One thing I would caveat about awards is I think it's important for people to make work that they like instead of work that they think might win, because long term, I think it's going to make you happier.
Mm-hmm. That being
Yeah.
said, like, it also, as much as it is just like a personal motivator to make work that you like, that gets awarded, it's also, it is kind of a measure of your success for your employer as well. So if you're, bringing in awards for your company, that looks great for you. And that's probably an incentive to, I don't know, give you a raise or give you a promotion, or, it shows that you're trying to work your way up and bring value to the company as well.
Yeah. Especially early on, just getting your name out there. I think it's important. But again, to make sure that you do it because you like doing it and it's something that you're proud of, not just thinking it's an award winner. Do you have a dream client or ad you'd like to make?
For me, I think it would be Lego. I just grew up playing with it. I love it a lot. And well, not really anymore. I don't think my partner wants any Lego in the apartment at my age, but it would be really fun to work on. And if you guys watching have a second to just look up like Lego print ad in Google, and you'll see some really, really beautiful work. I think they consistently have nice work. So that would be one for me.
Yeah. I think Pete also always says, like, in terms of like what the best brief he could possibly get is like, let's say it's for like a glue company and they say, we have the stickiest glue. That would be like a great brief to sort of like make creative against. Just something straightforward and like kind of, hyperbolic and boastful.
Yeah. So if it's not a particular client like Lego, I would say, yeah, in general, the best thing to get is something that's really clear. More than what the brand is, if they have a very clear idea of what they want, that's what's fun to work on. When they don't know, when they have a less clear idea of why their product is good or why people should buy it, or they're unwilling or they're a little bit scared or timid to make a bold statement, then often that's less fun.
How clear, like, do you get a lot of clear briefs when you get briefed, or is it kind of a mix depending on the client? And probably the longer you've worked on a client, the more you know about it, so it's going to be easier.
Yeah.
There's a range, I would say. Chris?
Yeah, there's definitely a range. Sometimes you get a brief that's super straightforward, especially if it's like a traditional campaign, like, we need a TV ad and a couple billboards and like a social media post. If it's something pretty straightforward like that, like it's like, okay, let's try and figure this out. But a lot of the times too, it's more complicated in the media buy. It's, maybe more social focused, or they want to do activations, or different things that aren't necessarily just traditional singular focused ideas. But that's part of the challenge. So
And one thing I would like to mention too is, if you're in advertising and you enjoy it, you don't always have to wait for briefs either, to do things. So you may just have clients at your agency, and you say, hey, we have a really good idea for this, and they may not have asked for it, but if it's feasible and if they like it, that's part of the benefit of being in a creative business is, you can surprise people with your imagination sometimes, even when it's not being built. And a lot of times that's what leads to award-winning work.
Yeah. And they find money. Sometimes there's no money, and the creative briefs gives them a proposal and they find the money to do it. So always thinking outside the bar there.
yeah, exactly.
Is mentorship in the ad industry?
Sorry, I think that cut out for me.
Oh,
yeah.
How important is mentorship in the ad industry?
Oh, I think very important. We definitely had mentors, like when we were interns, just like, the senior teams working above us. Even at our current agency, we have, mentors in not only our bosses, but like, teams that are maybe below them that are a little bit more accessible. I think, yeah, anytime you can, one of the things I think I recommend to students, especially when looking for an internship, is to, rather than reach out to like the chief creative officer, like the top dog at an agency, and say, hey, are you guys hiring for interns? They're probably maybe too busy to, answer all those emails that are coming in. But if you try and talk to someone who's a little bit lower, like a senior team or like an associate creative director team, they might be more willing to, grab a coffee or whatever the virtual equivalent of that is these days, and sort of like talk about your portfolio or talk about your interests, and just be a little bit more generous with their time.
When you start out, the people above you are going to be obviously the most important right away. And we were lucky, like Chris said, to have those people. And then as you move along, you start to become those people, and that's equally important. To summarize, mentorship I think is extremely important in the industry. And, go to a place for the people. that would be my advice when you're picking where to go. You know, the people that like you and the people that you like, and it'll work out.
Okay, good advice. Also, I mean, looking at resources like Applied Arts, the award winners, just trying to find some of those agencies in those brands that you want to work on, as well as probably a really good place to go as well. General question, just kind of back to the Heinz. How are big brands like Heinz, how do they react when you mess with their logo? Their reaction when you messed with it?
Who's going to be seeing this presentation exactly?
They don't usually love it. They don't usually love it, but if they like the idea, they will make exceptions. Because yeah, it's true. Like most brands have a brand guideline and you're supposed to follow it. And it says, they'll literally say, do not distort the logo and do not make the logo pink and do not do this. So when you're like, hey, we just broke that rule, but do you like it? You know, you're kind of taking a risk, but if the idea is cool enough, hopefully they'll like it.
And
in general, they don't want you to mess with it, and they usually want you to make it bigger.
Yeah, that's always the feedback. Can the logo be bigger? Can it be bigger?
Yeah. Although Heinz definitely liked it, that part, because it did win awards as well. So I think that is all the questions we have. Thanks, guys, for sharing some insight into what it's like to work as a creative partnership in the advertising industry. We hope that you found it valuable. We appreciate your time. And as you start the school application process or looking to explore where your talents fit, visit creativefutures.ca. We do have 2 other sessions scheduled for today. And if you haven't already, you can register at creativefutures.ca and click on speaker series. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for having us.